listening to the Straight to Video podcast with Rob Lane.
All right, we're all set for another Straight to Video podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Lane, and today I welcome a guy who, yes, he's seen and done it all in the music business. Dug Pinnick has lived and experienced so many musical movements over his years. He's seen trends come and go, but all have made their mark on him, and he puts it all into his amazing music, which is still at the top of its game. Most will know Dug as the singer and bass player for the band King's X, whose early beginnings actually trace back to the late 70s, but came into their own a few years later before finally bursting onto the worldwide stage with their debut album, Out of the Silent Planet, in 1988. Since then, the partnership of Dug, drummer Jerry Gaskill, and guitarist Ty Tabor have become one of the most respected hard rock outfits around and credited as being a major influence on literally generations of great rock artists. I've constantly heard over the years what a great guy Dug is, and this chat more than proved it. Incredibly warm and friendly, Dug is totally open and honest about his story and amazing career. We touch on some of his experiences with religion that has played a big part in his life, the early days of King's X, some of his bass inspirations, his work with the amazing band KXM, and also his brand new solo album Joy Bomb, which is out now. Most of all, though, we talk about music and what it means to Dug and how it's allowed him to connect to so many people in his life. You're gonna love it. Before we dive in, shout out to Dead Skull Coffee for keeping me and you, the listeners, fully fueled on their rock and roll ground and full bean coffee. Listeners of this show can grab 15% off their order by simply adding the promo code STV on checkout over on their website, deadskullcoffee.co.uk. And I want to send a heartfelt thank you to everyone on the Straight to Video Patreon for their continued support. I love interacting with them on a regular basis and sharing updates on the show. If you too would like to get extra involved if you enjoy these chats, then please head on over to patreon.com/STVpod for all the info on how to be a part of this show. Okay, lots to dive into with Dug Pinnick, so let's not hang around. Please check out everything that Dug is involved in. Whilst preparing for our talk, I revisited the King's X catalogue and was blown away just how well it holds up and still sounds so vital and exciting. And the same can be said for Dug and KXM, along with the brand new solo single Key Changer from the new album Joy Bomb. All the info on these projects can be found at dugnation.net, and it's not bad for a guy who's 71 years young. Total legend, and I was thrilled to talk to him on the show, so please enjoy my straight to video chat with the one and only Dug Pinnick.
Hello.
How's it going, Dug?
All right. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, man. Pretty good. How's things over there? Nice and sunny by the looks of it.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful day today. It's about 75. It'll be 80. I don't know what Celsius is where you're coming from, but we have degrees. So
I always go with yours because anytime it's near 100, I'm like, damn, it's hot.
there you go.
That's my barometer. That's what I judge it on.
That is hot. 100 is hot. I'm used to that too.
Bit of a contrast to what it is here. It's freaking freezing, man. It's freezing.
I bet. I'm sorry. I love living in LA because the weather's always really, really good.
Nice one, man. First off, thank you ever so much for taking some time to do this. I'm sure it's one of many which you're fitting in.
Hey, no problem. No problem, bro.
We have a couple of lovely mutual friends, some who I consider the real good guys. First, Andy Blacksugar.
Oh, I love Andy.
Who you sang on his track,
Yeah.
Running Like a Dog, some time ago. I think he's done some remixes for you as well.
Yes, he did. A perfect song off of my Strum Some Up record. Great guitar player, left-handed too, which I love because we're both left-handed.
Awesome. And I've known Ray Luzier, who you're in KXM with, for about 15 years now, back when he was in David Lee Roth's band, and I was writing a fanzine, and Ray always showed great support to the magazine and kept me in the loop with what he was doing, and seeing him land the Korn gig was wonderful.
Yeah, that guy's a genius. He doesn't forget things. It's like every town he goes to, he remembers everyone. He gets back to you. I can't remember what I did from minute to minute. He's really amazing. I mean, that's probably why he plays drums so good too. I mean, you could give him a song and he'll come and play it for you within 10 minutes. It's like crazy.
Did Ray used to come out to your shows back in the day, even before he got the Dave gig?
Yeah. I remember he would always hang out after the show, and after we get done talking to people, he'd always be standing in the corner, just kind of hanging, and I'd go over and say hey to him. And then he told me he played drums and would love to play on anything I was doing. And that happened for year after year after year. And then I moved out to LA and we started to keep in touch because he lived out here. So he reached out. And from that point on, I met George and everybody else. You know, I knew the guys in Korn before he joined them, but to know that all those guys are together, it's really cool to go by and see it.
KXM, it's a real force of a band. I mean, what are you up to now? Like 3 releases, is it now?
Yeah, we got 3 records out. You know, that band is a lot of fun. We've never toured live. I don't know how that would turn out because we put so much into those records. It'll be rough to do them live, but you know, why not? Jimi Hendrix did all this stuff live, even though the records are different. But we're talking about a 4th record. We haven't had a chance to get to it yet. George is doing some solo stuff, my solo thing. King's X new record is coming out. I got my Grinder Blues side project.
You're juggling, sir. You're juggling.
Yeah, so I'm juggling my girlfriends around. But, you know, the thing is, there's always going to be something coming out that I'm a part of. It's a never-ending trail, and I'm thankful to the people that always buy it, you know, or check it out or give me encouragement on it.
Other than the obvious instruments which you each play in KXM, is anyone in particular captain of the ship?
No, that is the reason why we're a band. There's no captain. No one tells the other what to do. No one suggests to play something other than what they're playing. And no one is allowed to write lyrics if I'm singing them.
Right.
And we love it. And here's the reason why. Because both of those guys, I know whatever they do, I won't be let down. And that's the fun of truly making music with people that you can allow to do and be who they are and love what they do as an artist. That's very important. I learned that a lot with those guys, especially because I'm sort of kind of a control freak. And with King's X, I wrote most of the songs in the early days. And, you know, I wanted them to do them exactly the way I wrote them and all that kind of stuff. You know, the whole ego thing.
You had that vision in your head.
Yeah. And the whole ego, the thing of not trusting, you know, and I realized, you know, even, you know, you grow. And you learn, you know, and Tony and Jerry are so amazing. They can do whatever they want to and make a song sound great. So what was I thinking? But in my youth, that's what I did. But with KXM, we started out exactly like that without no prerequisite. I remember one time George said, Dougie, can you play this riff with me? I go, no. And it's on film. I go, George, whatever you play, I'm going to play the opposite. And he goes, okay. And that's the fun of it. You know, Ray will come up with a drum beat, not even come up with it. He'll be playing something to get a sound on the drum so Chris can get a good drum sound. And I'll go, dude, play that pattern again. And I said, just keep playing it. And I'll find a bass pattern in the drums that he's playing because he's usually got a lot going on. And then we'll stop and go, George, what do you think? What do you got? And George, he'll just aim and he'll go, what do you think? I go, dude, that's badass.
We're off and running.
Right. And that's the fun. That's how much fun we have with our old asses making music. It's like being kids again.
Like going back to Ray coming out to your shows, has there been anyone else over the years that suddenly went on to do great things? Because you've had a career that's been around for many decades now and seen a lot of different changing musical movements.
Yeah, I would say so many bands and so many people. I mean, I remember when Mother Love Bone was making the first record and Jeff Ament would come out to see us play and hang out with us, you know, and watched his band, you know. I mean, he gave me a tape of Mookie Blaylock, which was their first demo. And Alice in Chains, Lainey gave me a cassette of those guys before they got a record deal. Just watching them all grow up, you know, just go down the list. There's so many. And I don't know, it's peers and youngins and when they come around and they look up and watch us play and they get something out of it, it really means a lot to us, because we're giving back to each other. I remember one time we played the Limelight in New York City. It's probably 90, I think it was. And there was Jeff from Pearl Jam. There was Tom Morello from Slayer. You could go down the list. It was like a music convention and everybody came. It was like we were that band at that moment that everybody wanted to see. Dee Dee Ramone, Joey Ramone. I mean, there was everybody from everything was there. And we got to play for them. And that was a bit overwhelming. And it was a night I'll never forget to go backstage at the party afterwards. And I was just surrounded by rock stars and just in awe, that they would even be there.
And they'd come to see you.
Yeah. And I even got pictures. Well, Alice in Chains opened for us and their record had been out for a couple months, I think. So me and Lainey and Jeff took a picture together, and I pull a picture out every now and then, post it. Because, we all look like we were like 20 years old, and I could tell story after story after story, Pantera, especially those guys too, good friends of mine, even before they got a deal, and how we all were peers with each other and listened to each other's music and how we prodded each other, it was so good. So, yeah, it was a good time in rock and roll in late 80s, early 90s for us.
And it's just that sense of almost like community as well. That's one thing, like playing in bands. You can have the fame or not have the fame. Just those friendships and those connections you make over the years and seeing what other people do and go on to do. It's exciting.
It is.
Support everybody.
Yeah.
Speaking of like musical movements, even for yourself, being born in 1950, you say even those first 10 years for you up to 1960 were incredibly important for you musically, singing from an early age. And did you realize you had a talent for singing by being in church, or was it just singing along to records or the radio?
I never realized I had a talent.
Okay.
And somewhere along the line, I guess I kind of accepted it, but I can't remember when. But my mom said I was singing before I could talk. She said I could hold a melody. And my dad's sister was perfect pitched, and she played piano when she was 3. I didn't find out about my dad's sister until I met him when I was 14. So his side of the family is very musical, and I didn't know that because my mom's side of the family loved music, but nobody played anything. But growing up on my mother's side, being raised by my great-grandmother, I got to hear every genre of music that there was at the time. I was going to school, and my music teachers at school saw that I could sing, so they were making me sing show tunes and Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra stuff. I'm 9 years old.
Was you the novelty guy? Listen to him sing this.
Yeah, I was. I was the only black kid in my school. So I got this little special attention because I was that little colored kid that could sing good. And I had teenage cousins who listened to Chuck Berry and Little Richard and stuff like that. And I had some other cousins who listened to nothing but blues. Chicago blues, it was a big deal in the 50s. So these guys from Chicago would come down with these new blues records by B.B. King, Muddy Waters, and stuff like that. And so my relatives would play them at their house. So I would hear those songs. Then I had an aunt and uncle who were totally into jazz, big band music like Duke Ellington and up to Count Basie and things like that. In West Montgomery. So I'd go over their house and hear this music, this new jazz that everyone was playing. And then I'd go back to my grandma's house, and she only allowed gospel music in the house. And the only 2 songs that I remember ever hearing in the house, because nobody came over hardly ever, was Mahalia Jackson, Move On Up a Little Higher, and the Staple Singers. I forgot what song it was. Those 2 songs really meant a lot to me because Mavis Staples and Mahalia Jackson were the first 2 singers that, for black people to even hear and be recorded. But yet, for me, the reality of what they were doing, I honed right into it. I felt it. It soothed me and it gave me this feeling. And so I just try to emulate the things that came to me. But when I would sing in front of people as a little child, I remember this lady got on her knees to stand even with me, and she was crying. And she said, she started praying for me in tongues as a Pentecostal real relative and asking God to make me a leader, and I'm special and I'm gifted and all this stuff. And I remember literally with her hands on my shoulders, I was looking around like this thinking, I don't know what she's talking about. I'm ready to go find my grandma and go home, And all my life, it's been that way. Even in high school and college, I was the guy that sang. And then when I got in rock bands, hey, get Doug. He's the only guy in town that can sing. I was just always asked to sing with everything. I remember even the first band I was in, my best friend comes up and says, dude, I'm starting a rock band. And we're both black guys. And, black people weren't doing much rock and roll then. And he says, dude, I'm starting a rock band. Want to be the lead singer? And I'm going, no, man, I can't sing. I can't be no band. He goes, come on, man, you can do this. And I go, okay, I'll be over there. I'll see you. And I go over there and grab a mic and sing the songs. And nobody complained. So I kept on singing.
Did it give you confidence?
It did not give me confidence, put it that way. It was like I always did it. I always stepped up to the plate. It wasn't no big deal for me to sing. I never was self-conscious of it because I was doing it all my life. Literally all your life. So, think there's something special or something different. You just, I walk. Yeah. I don't remember the day I started walking and why is it a big deal now, So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I've been oblivious to it most of my life. It's taken me my whole lifetime to realize who I am and what I'm doing. And I'm still just at the beginning of the realization of it. And I'm just starting to look back and go, oh, wow, cool. But it's taken me 71 years to look back now and see that all that I did was not in vain and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
No, definitely not. So you've got the voice. Then I believe you were 7 years old when your ears locked onto what a bass was, when you heard, was it Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers?
Yeah, Why Do Fools Fall in Love? I heard that bass line and I'm done. That was it. I don't know what happened to me, but all I thought about was upright basses. I remember I'd see them on American Bandstand. And I was into that. Everything else after that, when I listened to music, that's what I honed into first. It was always that. Secondly, it was vocals. Until the Motown time came along with Stevie Wonder, and it was Aretha Franklin doing Respect and Miss Dr. Feelgood and things like that. I was a teenager at that time. And those singers, David Ruffin, and just, we could go down the list of those singers. They were my peers. I was about 15, 16, 17 years old. And that's when I moved in with my mother, who allowed me to listen to any kind of music I wanted. And I got a radio and I would turn on WVON in Chicago and they played all the soul songs all day long till 6 o'clock. The radio turned off, but they came on at 8 in the morning. And every morning I got up at 8 and turned the radio on and I listened to those songs. And every now and then I got $1 from somebody and could go buy one of the records like Aretha Franklin, Dr. Feelgood. And when I'd bring that 45 home and put it on the record player, I would sit there and play it over and over and try to sing exactly the reflexes and how she twisted the words and the notes and everything, just down to the meticulous parts of it, because it was so fascinating to me.
How was that learning to sing to like a female vocal? Do you think that gave you your own vocal personality?
No, it didn't matter who it was. They're still singing the same thing. What I was looking for was heart. How do you twist your word to give me a goosebump? Because it did that to me. And anything that I like, I got to figure it out. I've always been that way. First time I saw a record player, I wanted to know how it worked. How does the sound go into that little needle and the thing spins around and it goes through this thing and comes out the speaker? How does that work? I got spanked a couple times for pulling record players apart, trying to figure out how they work, and shocked a couple times, putting my hands on wrong things. And yeah, it was like, I've always been that type of person. I just have to know, what is the meaning of life? God. Everybody says Jesus loves me. Well, I need more answers than that. I need more questions. Well, everything leads to a question for me. There are no answers. They all lead to questions.
Was you one of those people who got a new guitar and took it apart?
Yes.
Yeah.
I took everything apart. Back in the day, when we could work on cars, I could take an engine apart and put a new engine in. We all could back then. It was because we knew mechanics. Mechanics was something very important to people in the United States back then. That's how we lived. So we had to fix things ourselves. Nowadays, since we've got digits and stuff, now all we've got is computer geeks who are the mechanics of the world now. The other type of mechanics is like a dying thing. I open my hood up to my car now and I look at that and I go, okay, I got to take this somewhere and they can plug it up because I don't even know where to put the screw.
Man, do you remember what your first bass guitar was?
Oh, yeah. My best friend, I had just graduated from high school and he was Well, I was a couple years out. I think he was just graduating, but his girlfriend wanted to play bass. So he bought her this cheap bass for Christmas. It was like 50 or 60 bucks. And he knew that I wanted to play bass because all I ever talked about was bass around people. I did. I was like, I'd put a record on it and talk about the bass. So he brought the bass and said, hey, dude, I got a bass from my girlfriend, Deborah, and I want to play with it for a while. And I'm going to come and get it because I'm going to give it to her for Christmas. And I go, okay. And I started playing that thing. And I remember the first like riff I played, very primitive. I don't even know if it made any sense to anybody else but me. But because I played it, I remember jumping up and down, just losing my mind, hysterical, going, I'm playing a bass. I got so excited. I'll never forget that.
I'm guessing it was obviously a right-handed one. Did you just turn it upside down?
I was playing left-handed upside down. I don't remember learning. I just remember I was so happy to do it that I just kept doing it. And I got better and better, but I didn't know if I was getting better. I didn't care. I didn't even think about it. It wasn't even a second thought. Twice I said, hey, a couple guys in some bands needed a bass player. And I said, I can play bass. And they go, oh, no, man, you're not ready. You're not good enough. And I'm going, what? And I just go home and keep on practicing. You know, it didn't matter. As long as I was playing my bass, I could have cared less. I could have played in my bedroom all day long. But what happened was he came to get the bass and I wouldn't give it back to him. He came to get it the second time and I wouldn't give it back to him. And he didn't come back anymore. And maybe 25 or 30 years later, he said to me, he says, dude, he said, I saw how you love that bass and you just couldn't part with it. So I just said, I might as well just let him keep it. And look at you now. And I said, thanks, man.
That's awesome.
That was the first bass. So second bass I got in a car wreck with a friend of mine and I was playing my shitty bass. And he bought me a brand new P bass with the settlement that he got. He got banged up pretty bad, but he got money out of it. He bought me a brand new P bass. And so that was my first real bass. And his name's Rex, rest in peace. He passed away Christmas 2 years ago. I still think about him. And man, he's the guy that gave me my second bass.
Had you seen any like bands performing live at this point when you were starting to learn bass? Had you gone out to any shows or was you too young?
I remember my grandmother would never let me go to a dance or anywhere there were bands playing. She didn't believe in that stuff. She was a strict Christian who'd only believe, I mean, literally, if it didn't say Jesus on it, you weren't going. So I never got to go out to see anything, but my grandmother would have these Pentecostal people come over every now and then. And the guy had a guitar and an amp. He had a little Strat with a tremolo bar on it. And the Fender amp had the vibrato, that tremolo thing on it. They would sit in the front yard and play gospel songs and sing them. And so I remember him playing guitar and the amp, but I knew there was no way that I could go over there and ask him, could I play it? Or could I even, what are you doing? Because growing up in the 50s, you were seen and not heard. Period. You did not interfere. So I just sat there and just remembered it all. But the second impression I got with the band was my great-grandmother had one out of town for the weekend and my aunt babysat me and she had teenagers. And there was this dance going on that was put on by the high school that there was a band playing. This is not 63, 64. I mean, the Beatles there were no Beatles yet, really. I mean, for America, I remember they did Girl, You Really Got Me Now by the Kinks, this band did. But I went to see him now. I'm in 8th grade. So I go to this place and I walk in the door scared because I'm thinking, I'm not supposed to be here. My grandma's going to get me. And I remember it was like a sock hop dance. It was like 20 or 30 kids there. And there was this little stage and there was this band, drums, bass, guitar, and a singer. And they played these tunes. I don't know if they're any good or not, but I remember I stood there and just watched it. And go, wow.
You were drawn to it, like, what's this? This is cool.
Yeah, and I just stood there the whole time. All the other kids, these were white kids, because like I said, I'm the only black kid in my school. All these teenage white kids are dancing and stuff, and they look over and this little black kid standing there just staring at the band. And I remember when they got done, I went home. And that's all I remember. I told my aunt, I got to see a band, Aunt Gert, and that was it. And so the second time I really saw a band was probably when I was a teenager, when I went to see James Brown when I was 16.
How was that?
It was amazing. Are you kidding me?
Dude.
I saw Ray Charles when I was 12. My uncle took me to see Ray Charles, me and his daughter, when we were 12. So we saw Ray Charles and Ray Letts at a great time, too.
James Brown, though, people losing their minds at that one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was so much fun. I mean, see, for me, the greatest thing about the music growing up around the music was, even though my grandmother kept me from everything, I learned to remember and retain things. And I had so many different outlets to get information from. And so I just soaked it up when I could get it. When I'd go to people's houses, I would sit in front of the record player and just listen and play the record over and over again.
I guess it meant so much more.
Yes. And that's why I think, it's my hypothesis, but a lot of times I listen to modern music now, and a lot of people feel that a lot of music has no heart anymore. And the reason why it doesn't have the heart that it had back in the day is because we've got too much information now, and we can't break things down and meticulously learn all those wonderful accents and phrasings that we used to learn from each other in the younger days, where we only had that one record and we played it over and over again. Nowadays, I see these kids can blow rings around me singing and blow doors down, but there's only a few that make me cry because they didn't listen to down underneath it. I run into people say, I'm a Hendrix freak, Oh, wow, that's great. So what's your favorite record? And they go, well, I listened to Voodoo Child on MTV or something, and I'm going, hey, that's it? Go, yeah. And they all of a sudden think they're a Hendrix fanatic and they're trying to play like him. And I'm going, you're playing those notes, but you didn't hear him. You didn't get a chance because nobody gave you that chance. And that's what I feel that's happening with music. But the thing with music now is everything morphs into something new. What was happening before the 60s and 70s and 80s? There was something 50s and 30s. Remember vaudeville? That stuff was like, that didn't have no soul at all in it to me. It was a whole different kind of thing. And even the early Black music, how like goofy sometimes the singing was, how they bug their eyes out and roll their eyes back and stuff. And that was cool back then. So just everything morphs into something new. And I never want to be like the old folks that used to say to me when I was young, that ain't blues. That's Allman Brothers. That's white boy blues. Go listen to Muddy Waters. And I'm going, Uncle Johnny, man, listen to Johnny Winter, man. He's playing blues. He goes, that ain't blues. He'll pull out some old, something old. So I watched that growing up. I did grow up in a really rich musical family who didn't play music and who never told me not to do what I do, but never really paid attention to what I was doing. They just let me do it. And as a result of it, it worked for me. I didn't have those people around me telling me, you need to give up or you're not that good or whatever, No one ever said anything. I just kept going. And the handful of people outside of the family, teachers and people like that, would always take a liking to me and always take me aside and give me special treatment. So I didn't realize what they were doing until now. And I get it now. Back then, I just took it for granted, kind of. You're just used to it. I've watched people cry when I sing all my whole life. And people go, how do you feel when you see somebody cry? And I'm going, it moves me, but not like you would think it moves me. I'm just going, wow, this is so cool that this happens because people have done that to me. And I know how that feels. So I empathize with them and go, oh my God, this is so cool. We're all on the same page. I don't go, oh, look what you did. I go, no, that's not the point. We want to feel each other and we want to feel each other's pain so we can carry each other's burdens. And how do we do it without sing and make music for each other to lift each other up and to help each other? So I think that's a part of the makeup that people like me have, is we just kind of make you smile.
How was it for you when bands like Zeppelin and Hendrix came along, and also Yes with Chris Squire, I know is a big influence on you? Would that be like kind of in your late teens heading into your 20s?
Yes.
Was this like brand of distorted hard rock feel like your own compared to things that had come before?
Yes, it did, because I was at that age where we were looking for something a little heavier now. I was listening to Motown and the Memphis sound and stuff, and, Sam and Dave, and that stuff was rocking. But when I heard Led Zeppelin, I'm going, whoa. I said, now we turned it on 12, because when I heard well, Booker T and the MGs was going ding, 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 boom. So it was the same music to me, except it was on 12. And then ZZ Top comes out with Trace Hombres, and I'm going, okay, Muddy Waters, move over. The youngins have, we taking over now. We just giving a little bit more. Be proud of us. Come on. And Yeah, that was very important. And what I loved about those bands is they were lucky enough out of a zillion of bands that started to find each other. A band has to have, everybody in the band has to have that magic. They have to have that magic, whatever it is. They have to bring that magic where when you go see them, you could watch only them all night and you get entertained and mesmerized and moved. And if you can find everybody in your band like that and can learn to live with each other, you have Led Zeppelin. You have Yes on the Yes album with Fragile and Close to the Edge. That incarnation of Yes was a perfect band, and you could just go down the list of bands that are like that.
Put like Queen in that.
Yeah, Queen. Oh my God, Queen. Are you kidding me? And Black Sabbath. Geezer had this touch on the bass that was unlike anybody else. He played in the middle of his neck and he got a different tone than anybody else got. And then he would play the riff at Tony every now and then, but then he would do his own thing over there. And, even though when a band hears a Black Sabbath record now and they'll just play the riff that Tony Iommi played, they don't notice that Geezer's back there playing riffs around him, and they're badass. That's what makes a band. And I think a lot of times we've lost that. Nowadays, I think we've lost a lot of that sensibility. But then on the other hand, I have to take that back because nowadays all you need is a boombox and a mic and an 808 and come out and do a beat like you're getting ready to go to a Zulu warrior tribe party with, African boom, 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 and the walls shaking and your whole body shaking and somebody going, get up, boom, boom, get up. I'm going, well, you've taken it back to ground zero again. Let's start over. Nirvana did it. I Want to Hold Your Hand. The Beatles did it. Hendrix did it. Little Richard went back to ground zero. Big band music. Everybody's playing notes. And all of a sudden, Little Richard comes out. And faster than the blues. So music is it's such an incredible thing and has had such an incredible history throughout our lives, Oh my God. I could go on and on and on and on and on.
People sometimes say, surely it's going to get to a point where every song's been written, every melody's done.
Every song has been written. Every song has been done. There's only 7 notes in a chord. Those songs were written 100 years ago. Whenever it started, that was already over with. Beethoven, I think he had made up every melody that there could ever be. The thing is about music is, can you put your own heart on it and make it your own? And that's what changes everything. And then all of a sudden someone goes, oh, I like that, how they made me feel. He took a Frank Sinatra twist with a James Brown twist and made it his own, and I got goosebumps. And then all of a sudden he sells 100 million records, and then you got a whole generation who's singing like that. And then somebody else comes along, and that's how music works.
Wonderful, wonderful. How did your bass playing change after hearing all these newer hard rock bands in the 70s?
Chris Squire changed everything for me. I listened to Jamie Jamerson and Chuck Rainey and Willie Weeks on bass. They did all the bass on all the soul music back in the day. But Chris Squire came out on Roundabout. That's the first song I heard. And I'm going, what is this tone? It had a clavinet grand piano sound, which is something that I had always gravitated to in sonics when I listen to music, and even baritone saxophone. I love that. And I played a baritone sax for like 6 months in 8th grade. And when I play bass and when I think of bass lines, I hear all those instruments in my head to come up with whatever I'm coming up with. But when I heard him, it was like it had a voice that I had never heard before. And so I went out and tried to find that tone. And I've been chasing that tone to this day till I have my own till I have my own pedal. But Chris Squire, what I loved about him was he could play real funky, real simple stuff to the point of he just go bump, bump, bump. And I'm going, boy, he's taking it all the way. He's giving me like 3 beats of silence, in which made it even more aggressive. And so I'm going, yeah, let me try that. And then all of a sudden on Roundabout, where he's double picked everything at the end, and I'm thinking, okay, I've never heard a bass player play this fast and play so melodic, and he made it work. He didn't step on anybody. And so I'm thinking, okay, put that in there. Let's put that in the soup a little bit and see what we can come up with. And that with, the R&B blues thing that I grew up with, and the prog thing came along, with Yes, and then Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and then UK, and you can go down the list. Then, Mahavishnu Orchestra, and I lost my mind in that stuff.
It become an addiction for you. I need more. More.
Oh, it was. I needed more notes, more. It was such a challenge to sit there and close your eyes and try to comprehend everything that they were doing and understand where they were going without getting lost. It was such a what's the word for it? Exercise.
As you kind of started getting busier with your playing, you'd eventually move from Illinois to Springfield, Missouri to join a band which ultimately didn't work out, but you would team up with Jerry and Ty. Do you remember if you guys had like a direction in mind, or was it just to kind of go out and play and try and make a living? Or
I remember after Jerry and I had played with Phil Keaggy for a little bit, and we met Ty, and we started just hanging out and talking about music and stuff. And we decided to start a band. I think it was 1980. I can't remember the month. I remember being a believer, a Christian at that time, which I am not at this time. I really believed that God wanted me to start a band that wasn't Christian, because in my 20s, I was a Jesus freak, and the music that I wrote was kind of like Yes and Kansas and stuff like that. But it was about Jesus and being saved. And, you can't get a record deal with that back in the 70s. You just couldn't. And I thought we were a pretty good band. I mean, I have tapes of it. I wrote all the songs except one or about two songs on in the whole band back in the day. And we had a keyboard player, and we did kind of Yes, Kansas type Jesus songs. Couldn't get a record deal. Anyway, so at that point, playing with Phil Keaggy was a big time Christian guitar player at the time. Jerry and I played with him for a bit. And at that point, both of us thought, wow, we finally, we're moving up the ladder, because he was in the Christian world. He was playing for 2,000-3,000 seaters. So we were his backup band. And we did a huge festival in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Oral Roberts University is. And, in the 70s, middle 80s, where all that hypocrisy was going on, and all the God's going to kill me if you don't give me $1 million and all that stuff. Well, we had all these big gospel groups that played PTL and all those things, and they were selling millions of records. And these are the number one evangelical gospel singers selling millions of records. And we were on the bill, early in the show. And I remember as a naive Christian thinking, all Christians, don't cuss, and they don't fuck before they get married, and they don't drink, and they don't do. I mean, that's what I was taught, and I fucking believed it. Even the church I went to, I believed that nobody did that stuff, till I found out later everybody was doing that stuff. And I'm walking around this little perfect person, scared that God was going to beat me up or kill me, or send me to hell. But anyway, we'll jump past that one. So I'm walking backstage waiting to hear some fellowship and people praising God and talking about Jesus and who got saved and stuff. I walked back, and they was cussing and fussing and smoking cigarettes and drinking. And I went, wow. And then I looked around, and I saw these egos. And I saw these people undermining each other, and I saw just some ugliness. And I thought to myself, I really went to the dressing room and prayed. And I said, God, if this is what it's like to be in the Christian music world, I'd rather be out there, because at least I know what I'm getting. I won't trust anybody out there. But in here, oh no, I saw nothing but hypocrisy to its highest. And that is one of the biggest reasons I'm not a Christian anymore.
It's almost like an alternative Wizard of Oz. The curtains just pulled back, and wow.
It blew my mind. People always tell me, well, those are people that misrepresented God, and I'm going, that's fine. And yeah, I hold them accountable for that. But that's not the reason why I don't believe in Jesus. I have found my reasons, and it's not hypocrisy, because hypocrisy is in everything. So we went out to be a regular rock and roll band. And right around that time, U2 put their first record out, and I really liked it. But when the second record came out in October, lyrically, Bono really gave me a slap in the face lyrically, because before that, I used to write lyrics, but they always pointed the finger. I was always, I was one of those dummies, that young kid that thought he knew everything. So he's telling everybody what they needed to do and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, Bono's singing about his heart and what hurts him and how he feels. And I thought to myself, wow, because I had all these things going on in my life, dealing with, emotional problems that were just unbelievable stuff that I didn't know how to deal with and didn't understand and couldn't even talk to people about, because the people that I tried to talk to, they just want to pray away your problems and stuff like that. So, he spoke to me deeply. He said, I've tried to find my feet, but in you, I'm complete. I fall down. And I thought, yeah, because I'm not perfect. I'm trying to be a perfect Christian. I'm just having a hard time. And he said, but in you, I'm complete. It was like he had peace. That, okay, God loves me, so I'm okay. And I never heard a gospel that was so loving before. And all of a sudden, at that point, my lyrics changed. I thought, I'm gonna write about how I feel about things instead of what I think people should do. And that's what changed everything. And I dug into myself, and it's become my therapy for most of my life. If I didn't sing about what I'm going through, I'd probably, be a serial killer or worse.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I think you said another changing point, kind of like in the evolution of King's X, was when Ty started playing guitar with his drop D tuning, and that opened up doors for you as a singer and vocalist, and kind of put you on the track of what would really become King's X. That was when it was kind of born.
Yeah. The coolest thing about drop D tuning is Ty played bluegrass with his father and his brother. And bluegrass has a lot to do with drop D tuning, and they play a lot of fingering. And Ty said that he wrote this song. I guess he must have played it in drop D and it came out really cool, which was Pleiades. Just the way he played it is a bluegrass riff, but turned on 12. It's massive, and he came in and wrote that song, and it kind of reminded us of She's So Heavy, because that's what he was kind of, Ty's a big Beatle fan, and I can see he was trying to go for that heavy Beatle thing. It was so cool. We had never heard anything like that before. And me and Jerry just went, I like that. And me writing songs all the time, I went home, took my E string and tuned it down just because he did. But the thing is, when I did that, all of a sudden, it opened up every door I could have imagined to write a new way to write songs. Because drop D tuning, it's like the most primitive way to write a song. I mean, think about Helmet, or just just flat finger. Anybody can play that. And then when you play regular chords with that guitar tuned a different tuning, you have a different chord, but you're still playing the normal G chord, but now it's a cool chord, something that people don't use too often because they didn't play in that tuning. And all of a sudden, this new sound starts to emerge. I remember we did it, Soundgarden did it, Alice in Chains did it, and the whole world did it after that. Somebody said the easiest way to change the world with music is to make up something that any kid can pick his guitar up and immediately play. And drop D tuning is that simple. And I mean, Hey Man, Nice Shot. At that point, when Filter did that song, I thought, okay, he did it. He made the baddest drop D riff up in the world. We've got nowhere to go after that. It was like, my God, I went, what do I do? Because it was drop D riff wars back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
It was something. I mean, we threw out a whole good slew of them in the early stages. So I'm happy about that. But oh yeah. So that became kind of a thing that we were doing. The difference with us is I think that whenever we sang, the butterflies flew in. When everybody else sang in the grunge bands, the angst came out and everybody gravitated to it. I always felt like we were just too pretty. Even STP and all the bands across the country that you would call from the grunge era, they all had that angst and that anger, and they had those singers that wore their hearts in their sleeves and they were dark. They were them Jim Morrisons, and stuff like that. And I'm this super nice guy smiling at everybody, talking about, why can't everybody just be happy? I'm angry too, but I laugh about it now and make fun of it. There's a lot of people that love King's X for that, so I'm not going to knock it. But not to quit us with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, but the Beatles always said they wish they were angry like the Rolling Stones. And the Rolling Stones said they wish they were prettier like the Beatles. And that's how I've always felt about a lot of those bands. I mean, even Pantera, who are wonderful friends of mine, who we played their music, they played our music. We rode around in our cars listening to each other's music, and they just brought that thing, made it so hard. And we always would just look at each other and go, God, can you get any heavier? And then I remember I got in the car with Dimebag one time and I said, dude, I got to hear the new album because you got it in the car. And he says, check this out. And it was Walk, I think it was.
Wow, melted your face.
It melted me to the floor. His car system, you got to understand, he had a PA in his car, in his truck. So it plummeted me. And I looked at him and I said, dude, that's amazing. In the low end, you beat me to death. He goes, low end? Check this out. And he pushed a button and came on. Give me $1 and give me 50 cents. And it crushed me. It was way heavier than Pantera. And I just looked at him and he said, and that's what you guys do. And we just sat there and laughed and hung out, And so the good old days where everybody was pushing each other and everybody let each other know that they were affecting each other. It was a great, great time. I miss it. I miss those guys. I miss Dime. I miss Vinny. I miss, all those people, just go down the list anyway.
Man. I'm interested though. You did catch the eye of Megaforce Records to sign your first deal. When you signed that deal, do you recall how it was for you back then in the late 80s? I mean, you would have been approaching 40 years old. You'd already had a long career in music. Was that daunting or exciting for you to be in that position?
I've been dumb enough to just do what I do and always blindly believe that someday whatever's going to be will happen, that I'll make a living at this. Basically, that's all I wanted to do is make a living at it where I didn't have to work a day job. And if I could do that, I was happy. I remember first time it ever dawned on me was in King's X in 83 or 84 when we thought about breaking up because nothing was happening. We were making $15 a piece a gig, playing around town and all this promise. I was writing all these songs and the music community, the ones who played music thought we were amazing, but nobody else would come see us. And these guys hardly ever came because they were working too, So it was not a very encouraging time.
Was Jerry married at that time?
Yeah, Jerry was married, and that was a really hard thing for him because he had 2 kids. Oh, man, you can ask him about that one. That's a whole nother world of stories. But we were at this club, and we got fired because we were too loud. See, back in the day, if there was nobody in the club owner blamed the band, say they're too loud. It was always the band's fault. And after the club was full, the club owner wouldn't allow you to play very loud because he was afraid he was going to lose customers. Anybody that came up and go, the band's too loud, he'd come up and bitch at you. So it was just a rough time in the Midwest. It was like Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. It was like nothing there. Bunch of rednecks, no black people hardly at all, and this white boy in this band singing Beatles songs, So, it wasn't happening for us. So we thought about breaking up, and I remember that right when we all decided to officially do it, we all said, no, we can't do this. And at the same time, that was the day that this band came to town, and there was this one guy and his wife, and they had a little Winnebago, but this guy had his own little Winnebago, and he was self-sufficient. Anywhere he went, he could just pull everything out. He didn't have to go to the store. He didn't have to buy groceries, never a hotel room. And he had it down to a science. And he looked like an old rocker that used to be in a rock band in the 60s. And he had long hair and he was going bald and he wore these tight bell bottoms. And he just looked very desperate, defeated. And there was a aura about him that made me have to stop and go, dude, are you like that? And I had to deal with that for a second. I'm going, that was when I first realized, and I'm 34 years old at that time, when I'm going, dude, are you one of those guys that everybody just goes, oh, why didn't he grow up and get a job? Don't he realize he ain't no good and he's living off a dream? So I dealt with that for a second. It wasn't a second. It was like when somebody told me back in the day I wasn't good enough to play in a band, bass. It didn't matter. You deal with it for a second. And with ADD, it was gone anyway. It was like off into the universe. And the universe sucked it. It said, we got this one. Keep on going, Doug. And I kept going. The biggest thing I always tell people about being a musician or being an artist is it's not when you started and when you made it. It's if you've been doing it all your life and you're getting paid for it and you're still doing it and it matters to somebody, then you are doing it. You never get a place where I made it, because no matter how much money you make, no matter how many hits you have, you're still going to go, well, I still want to make that one up.
What's next? What's next?
Yeah. Or I've got nowhere to go. I give up. And then your dream is over. And I mean, what the fuck is that about? You know? So for me, it's been a perfect road so far, knock on wood. I have to admit that now, you know, in my older age. Before, I would never have admitted that. You know, oh, if I could have changed everything. But now I look back and go, oh, my God, I'm glad I never tried to change a thing, because the what ifs out of all the changes, oh, my God, I might not be happy.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do a huge fast forward, or I'll keep you here for like several more hours. King's X have a new album in the can to come out next year. You have so many projects such as KXM, as we mentioned, and Grinder Blues.
In my solo album.
Guest appearance for Days, and you've had a brand new album, Joy Bomb, which is out, and Key Changer. The single is massive, dude. It's great.
Thank you. Sorry to interject that. I just got to pimp my record for a second.
Oh, that's what it's all about. That's what we got to get in there.
Oh, yeah. The video is up on YouTube. Everybody go watch it, please, at least one time. Not for the likes as much as I just had fun doing it. And I hope you get a grin out of it. You know, that's all I want, you know, is to the people to play it and want to get up and dance to it and just have some fun. It was a fun video to make. I don't like to be in videos anymore. I don't want to be. I feel like the old guy trying to be cool in the video. It's kind of hard to make us old folks look cool in videos anymore.
As soon as I loved it though. I don't know, where was it filmed? Was it just filmed in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Just the shot of you just walking down the street is just, that's a badass right there.
Well, thank you. Like I said, I don't want to be in the video. So I thought that let's make this a fun video. I'm just having a good time. So I don't have to pose. I don't have to act bad. I don't have no lyrics. I'm trying to get in somebody's face, you know, and all these moods, and, you know, people try to get color and all that around me to make it look so whatever it's supposed to look. Cause I hate all that stuff because I'm getting old. I see all the lines. I see all the wrinkles, you know.
Don't overthink it, mate. Don't overthink it.
I overthink it all the time. Hey, I wouldn't do what I do if I didn't overthink everything. But this one, as a reactionary thing, I thought, you know, just up and dancing in front of a blue screen, having fun. And Jamie Brown, he did the video, and I'm really excited. One of my favorite videos I've ever done, and I don't like too many videos that I'm in because I usually don't like the way I look. And in this video, the song took away from my focus on myself. And if it can do that to me, then, you know, I can accept the fact if people like it now and go, thanks.
No, it's great. And just your passion for music, it just seems it's obviously still as important to you as it ever was.
Yeah.
And the creative process is still as rewarding as it's always been. Are you forever discovering like new sounds and melodies? Because the energy in everything you do, it just seems so present.
I'm always finding new ways to recreate everything that's already that I've already heard, because like we've said before, there's nothing new I could ever come up with. Even combinations, you know, of different genres and things, you know, the soup still has to taste good, you know. So for me, you know, like cooking, I love to cook too. And I love trying new things to see how you can taste different or how you can get something differently from the same old thing, you know. I like to spice things up a little bit either way. If I'm getting too complicated, getting too deep with the song, well, let's go back and I want to hear the music everywhere I go, you know. I take myself in rounds, you know, where I'm, you know, every song can't be, let's save the world or some type of philosophical phrasing that I heard from an old man or something, you know. So, you know, I love songwriting. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life because you can keep doing it and it never lets you down. And it always gets better as you keep doing it. So, you know, I've written probably about 600 songs at this point. And for me, the Joy Bomb album is probably my favorite record at the moment, which all my records are my favorite at the moment. I actually have to say, you know, because, you know, we our firstborn, it's perfect. We don't see no flaws until later and go, oh, my God, I put too much compression on that, blah, blah. You know, but anyway, for this record, when I play it, I don't find anything that bothers me about it. And so for me, I guess I did what I set out to do. is for me to walk away and be happy with it. And because of that, it's so cool to hear people tell me about it and tell me the things they get out of it, because, it's nice to hear people compliment you on something you purposely worked your heart out for, and you think it's good too. And it just feels good, So this is the first record I've ever done where I actually smile now when people say, man, and I go, cool. And then they go, what are you going to do? I go, I got more. It's like,
let's see what's next.
Oh, yeah.
Let's stack them up.
I tell this story all the time. My first semester of college was music theory, which is the only semester of college that I went to college. The teacher said, the first thing he said to us was, in music, all rules are made to be broken. And I thought, well, that's all I need to know. And that was the day I walked out the door and started writing fucked up music. I mean, anything I write now has got to have some kind of twist to it. But it's got to, before in my early days, I just put a twist in it just because I wanted to. I didn't understand structure a lot. I just wanted to put parts together and make them work and try to figure out ways to put melodies over them, because that's what Yes did and Kansas could do. And I'm going, they can make up these crazy ass parts and put these melodies up. How do they do that? So I really focused on that. But later on in life, I finally started learning that, no, you can still put fucked up parts in places, but it has to flow a little bit better. It has to turn into a really cool song. And I used to listen to songs where, like Queen, for instance, they go places where you didn't think they'd go, but they work, and the melody over it is like, oh my God. And so that's the kind of sensibility that has been a focus in my brain lately. And I feel like I'm tapping into that on the new album. I can't wait to make another record, because I've got more ideas now to hone in on more. I want to write the greatest song that was ever written, the greatest of all greatest song that's ever been written, that the world deems as the greatest. And, I'm not going to cry when that don't happen, but it sure is fun trying to get there.
Yeah, you're not going to stop trying to do it.
No. And I kind of don't want to, because if that ever did happen, which won't, where you got to go after that? And my joy is creating a new song. That's the thing. What can I come up with today? Because I love to dig way, way down inside. And I always think there's always a well. There's a well of information down in a human. There's a well of it, years and years and years of history of situations and stories and lives and experiences that we can never stop singing about, because they will always be there. And as long as we have that, we'll always be able to tell a story in a song.
Wonderful. Doug, you're a legend, sir. Thank you for chatting with me. No, I've loved it. Appreciate your time, and good luck with Joy Bomb.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to seeing you in the UK sometime soon. I saw you at Nottingham Rock City many years ago.
Oh, okay. If we come back, we got to hang out and have a beer, have a pint.
It's a date. It's a date, man.
Okay, my man.
You enjoy the rest of your day, Doug. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Total star right there. Thank you so much, Dug Pinnick, for being such a great guest here on the Straight to Video podcast. Make sure to pick up the brand new solo album Joy Bomb, which is out now, and everything you need to know about Doug can be found at dugnation.net. That's Doug spelled D-U-G. All things Straight to Video can be found at stvpod.com, with all episodes of this show along with music, videos and merch. And for bonus content, please get on board the STV Patreon over at patreon.com/STVpod, because I'd love to have you on board. That's it for this episode. Who can believe we're into November already? It's just nuts, but I truly appreciate your continued support of this show, and I look forward to chatting again real soon.